When you say religion, sustainability and finance, do you think of three separated, isolated things, or do you think of them as three connected, united things? As I have recently discovered, in the Muslim world, there are some interesting and surprising, promising synergies between these three things: religion, sustainability and finance, and I'm gonna share them with you today. The West is secular, which means that religion is separated from everything else in a society. The government, the departments, all its institutions, schools, banks, hospitals, entertainment, how we dress, culture, etc. Right? Well, that means that when you're integrating sustainability into business operations, you're doing it on top of the existing regulatory, civil and legal foundation, but religion is not on the table. Now, the Muslim countries are largely not secular, which means that the religion is not separated from the government and its institutions and everything else: banks, schools, hospitals, entertainment, culture, dress codes, etc. Right? So, religion is definitely on the table and sometimes it is the table. Right? So, therefore, accordingly, if you are integrating sustainability into businesses and everything else in Muslim majority countries that value religion so high, you have to do it through religion, right? On top of the existing religious foundation as well as other regulatory, civil and legal foundation. Let me offer you an analogy. In the West, Christianity used to be the sun, around which other planets were rotating, if you imagine solar system. So these other planets were science, culture, entertainment, arts, etc. Right? Education, right? They were rotating around this central sun, okay? Well, nowadays in the West, who knows what's the center, what's the sun? There is some debate about there is a crisis of values in the West. I have no idea how to resolve this. Well, what's important for our conversation here is that religion is outer planet, planet Pluto or Neptune, the small insignificant one, right? Well, in the Muslim world though, Islam is the sun. It is the big deal. It is the center around which other planets, institutions, value systems, arts, entertainment, science, education are rotating, right? Business as well, right, are rotating. All I'm saying is that unlike in the West, where religion is no longer a big deal, in the Muslim world, where religion is a big deal, right? We need to leverage and recognize this importance, right? Because when we're talking about climate change, which is a serious global issue which is getting worse every year, when we're talking about sustainability and sustainable development goals, which are to be met by 2030, by the way, we don't have a lot of time, well, we need to factor in that 1 in 4 people is Muslim, and most Muslims take their religion very seriously. Right? So, therefore, we need to ask 2 questions. Number 1, what are the similarities, genuine connections between Islam and sustainability? Right? So that's one. And question number 2, if there are connection and similarities, and there are, and I'm gonna show them to you, at least some of them, what needs to happen for these 2 strong forces? One, religion, Islam being recognized by 24% of global population, and 2, climate change and sustainable development goals, also very important issues. So currently they are disjointed, but if we manage to join them together like that, it will no longer be 2 separate rivers flowing like this. But there's potential for like 2 tributaries, mighty tributaries, joining together and forming a strong channel and current for sustainable development. And that is really incredible and unrecognized and untapped potential that is presented to us. So before I show you some of these connections, let me give you a little snapshot of the Muslim world. On our planet of 8 billion, 1.9 or 24% are Muslim. The Muslim population is also growing faster than other groups. It is estimated to be 2.2 billion by 2030. On average, the median age is 23, unlike other groups where the median age is higher, which makes Muslim population also the youngest. Many Muslim countries are located in geographically challenging areas. There could be very dry areas, such as Middle East, which has only 1.4% of global fresh water. Well, it's a region, desert region, where the population is rising, but which doesn't have a lot of water. What are these people going to drink? How are they going to water their farms? When we're talking about farms, the soil is getting less fertile as the deserts spread, as the heat waves are getting hotter, right? Well, then you have countries where the water is actually a problem. Bangladesh. That's like the Netherlands of Asia, but without the water barriers. 165 million people live essentially in a giant river delta, where the soil is fertile, but as the sea level rises, and there are more floods and more extreme weather patterns, they are flooding these farms, and as soon as that saline water enters the soil, it ruins it, it makes it infertile, which then pushes people from the villages to the slums in the city. And then we have low-lying islands, for example Maldives, that are literally disappearing as the Indian Ocean rises. Do you know what is the highest peak of Maldives? 2 meters above the sea level. Where are the people going to go? People's awareness is rising about climate change and sustainability, sustainable development goals as well, right? Well, why? Because they face the impacts, they actually physically face the impacts. Rising sea level, worse heat waves and storms and floods, etc. So that's one. Second, everyone has a smartphone, so everyone can access information about climate change and sustainability and what is that country doing and why are we doing it. So they no longer is isolated people, but also as more and more people, we're talking hundreds of millions of people, are more aware, that puts those in charge, whether that's sheikhs, emirs, presidents, kings, CEOs, bosses, right? That puts them under the spotlight, right? Because they are accountable to their people, to their shareholders, to their citizens, to their family members, right? So, and many of them act. For example, Saudi Arabia has Saudi Arabia 2030 vision, which is their blueprint for transforming their country to a more sustainable country, right? That means more renewable energy, recycling water, being more efficient with resources, less wasteful, and more diversified economy, not as dependent on oil. Well, that was not meant to be a detailed overview of the Muslim world, because there are many countries from Morocco to Indonesia and anywhere in between actually. So, but it gave you some pointers, which was all I wanted at this stage, and now we can narrow it down further to Islamic finance. I am Jan from sustainablebutterflies.com.au. On the screen, you see my 5 pillars of sustainability. I have recently worked for a client in the finance sector in the Middle East, and that's what shapes the content of this video. Islamic finance is any financial activity that is compliant with Islamic religious law, also known as Sharia. It involves incorporating principles or objectives of Sharia into financial decision-making. It has various tools, instruments and financial concepts that are designed to facilitate this incorporation of these principles into financial decision-making. These tools are, for example, zakat, sukuk or waqf. and also Islamic microfinancing, right? So what are some of these objectives and principles of Sharia? Forgive me, let me just read it to you. They are called Maqasid, I don't know how to pronounce it, Maqasid al-Sharia, and they include preservation of wealth, but importantly, no interest, equality among people, law obedience, and prevention of corruption. The OECD estimates the value of Islamic finance to be $3 trillion, represented across 57 OIC countries, or Organization of Islamic Cooperation member countries. Now we arriving at a four-way intersection. Imagine you there sitting in a car, four-way intersection, and you have traffic lights and other three cars have traffic lights, right? So what do I mean? One traffic light is this: climate change and sustainability, sustainable development goals. It is global, impacts everything and everyone, right? The second traffic light is country specific, it's local specific to that Muslim majority country. Saudi Arabia 2030, it's the unique context, culture specific way of dealing with issues, transitioning away from current to the new, more sustainable, more diversified economy, etc. Right? Number 3, we have ESG, which is environmental, social, governance, a set of criteria making companies more environmentally friendly, fair and just. So, and that's implemented at the organizational level in that Muslim majority country, right? So we have climate change, global level everywhere, sustainable development goals. We have Saudi Arabia 2030 and its equivalents at the country level. We have ESG at the organizational level. And then in Muslim majority countries, we have Sharia, Islamic law compliance, which in these countries is across all levels. Because again, religion in Muslim majority countries is a big deal, right? It's the sun. It's not Neptune or Pluto. It's the sun. So therefore, I am convinced that when you at that intersection, the Sharia law, Islamic religious law, has the green light. It goes first, right? And also, it has the ability to green light the other green lights. In that intersection, right? Which is very important. That's how I see it at least. So now, let's look at 3 examples of how Islamic finance aligns with sustainable development goals. And I'm just gonna give you 3, but if you want more, go to the article that is linked in the video description. So, Zakat. Zakat is compulsory almsgiving or charitable donation that each Muslim gives once a year to those in need. And Zakat aligns with the Sustainable Development Goal 1, no poverty, and 2, zero hunger. Islamic finance, while encouraging wealth generation and preservation, prohibits interest, which puts less pressure on the borrower, right? Who doesn't have to worry about paying interest, which then means, which that aligns with the Sustainable Development Goal 1, no poverty, 2, zero hunger, 7, affordable energy and clean energy, and 8, decent economic growth and work opportunities. Islamic finance prohibits investing in forbidden or haram activities such as weapons and alcohol trading, tobacco, pork, gambling, prostitutions or weapons trading, and pornography. Now, these activities also often involve exploitation and human trafficking, so their exclusion aligns with SDG 16, peace, justice and strong institutions, and 12, responsible consumption and production. In summary, we have just scratched the surface here, right? This is not meant to be comprehensive, and it wasn't, right? But when you think about the scale and severity of climate change, that the Sustainable Development Goals must be met by 2030, right? The challenging demographic and geographic landscape of the Muslim world, which is huge, 1.9 billion people, and also the relatively high status of religion in these Muslim countries, right? We have quite powerful, interesting, but disjointed mix. So I am convinced that we must not ignore this, that we must put them together and align them for the environmental benefit, all plants, animals, people all around the world, coral reefs, etc. We have no option, we got to link it as well, and there is so much that can be done. And in the next video and article, I'm gonna give you another angle on this, which I think is also useful. Maybe it's all bullshit. Anyway, you will see. So if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing or liking the video, because that will make it more suggested to other people. Anyway, thank you very much for your time and you have a great day. Bye.